I just did a video the other day about some of these content creators slash influencer personalities in the Warhammer community. And, where I feel like there's a disconnect and, they're not, some of these guys aren't necessarily resonating with the vast majority of Warhammers or Garage Hammers out there. And so last night I sat down to do a little base coating on the Sky Claws and the Wolfen that I had just finished, which didn't go exceptionally well. I kept clogging my airbrush guns, and I got maybe 6 or 7 models base coated before I hung it up and went upstairs and started soaking my hairbrushes. I had them know. It's a lot of small victories and losses. A love-hate relationship is developing with those things. But anyways, so I turn on, usually I'll watch some battle reports or, some YouTube content that has to do with 40K. And I turned on Liam Dempsey because he's really good at kind of clickbaity thumbnails, and I mean, I like Liam Dempsey. I'm not going to throw shade at Liam Dempsey. But his thumbnails are like kind of clickbaity. And anyway, the last couple days, he's been putting together models and live streaming it. I think that's fantastic. He's not cramming Vanguard style tactics down everybody's throat, and he's not flashy about his presentation. Liam is an authentic streamer. Hats off to the guy. I love his Viking vibe and everything like that. So anyways, he's putting together the model, and he's kind of talking back and forth about things going on in his life, and he touched on the fact that the revenue stream for the YouTube content isn't as good as it has been in the past. And I kind of get that feeling from a few content creators that have turned this into their income. It's hard to hang your hat on that. And I know this because my girlfriend is also she does sales on TikTok, so it's an up and down, But I almost feel like I mentioned it in the video, that the market is so freaking saturated with these content creators that there's not much pie left to eat from anymore. Not only that, but I also feel like the content is kind of getting too far away from Garage Hammer and more towards meta. And I think the meta chasers and tournament players are a very small part of a much bigger puzzle. And I think you're going to lose your casual players with this recipe. I don't know what the answer would be for these guys. I wouldn't consider myself a 40K content creator. I'm a shit talker and a casual player. But I think that's also why you're seeing all this shilling for sponsorships. Because I think the days of YouTube paying out big checks for viewership is on the decline, because there's more competition for streaming services, platforms out there. So, they're not going to get the big paychecks from big viewership anymore. So it's, gifted memberships and sponsorships. And that's why you're seeing a lot more commercializing of 40K on content. Then I happened to turn on the Kieran show, and I was a little bit disappointed. He did a video on the Space Wolves. It was one of the more recent ones, and they were talking about models. And I think Kieran with his Gas Wolves is one of the more creative things I've seen on on some of the platforms. I mean, it's just did a really good job. He's already doing a really good job with the new models and the new range. But he was kind of quick to shit on the Bjorn model because it's old and it's boxy. Well, first of all, and I had this conversation with another guy on here, and it was like, he's the oldest dreadnought. Of course he's going to look outdated. If you just go by the lore, he's the oldest dreadnought, you know, or one of the, I think he is the oldest. So, of course it's going to be smaller. He's outdated, you know, he's not the hot new model. And I mean that in the sense of, in the story arcs, you know. So he, you know, on one hand, he's kind of like throwing shade at the Bjorn model and saying that it's silly looking and outdated. When they were talking about the must-haves in your Space Wolves army. And the jackass is putting Thunderwolf Cavalry in his list as a gotta have, and it's like, those are the stupidest looking models left now. They're ridiculous. Bjorn looks dumb, but giant space Vikings on huge wolves is okay. Make that make sense, Kieran. And I'll give another nod to Liam again. You know, he does bring up the 3D print community. He doesn't show for Games Workshop. You know, I was going to do a video at some point of my top 5 streamers, but, you know, since I had that concept in my brain, a lot has changed. A lot has changed. Where I think hobby goblins are falling off. You know, Liam Dempsey's a great guy. I love his channel. I love his Viking vibe. I'm a practicing heathen, so I can vibe on that. Liam, I'm heavily tattooed. That's a guy that I could drink some beers with. The only thing I don't like about his show is Joe's, I hope that when you sit on a park bench and I hope that that part. Liam, if you ever see this, can you stop doing the I hopes with the gifted memberships, please? But Liam's channel comes from a place of love for the game. Truly love for the game. 40K in 40 minutes play on. Those guys are fucking stellar. Easily the best battle reports on the internet. Some of these other guys, I really just, they are gross, you know. They're shilling, I don't know who their audience is, or how they've got big audiences, or who they're talking to, but it ain't your average guy. And it's people like that that are trying to come to the table with an already shrinking table to get their piece of the pie. It's too late, guys. Don't be a new YouTube content influencer creator in the 40K space unless you've got something new and fresh. Which, what are you going to do? We've done it all. Unless you've got some kind of crazy way of presenting a new battle report, you know, that's really high quality, you know. I don't know. There's something I had to think about on the way to work this morning, and I wanted to share it. Screaming into the void. Have a good day, nerds.